For your bell work today, read the problem below and write the system of equations that models the problem. Do not solve. Give yourself 5 minutes to complete this task. Pause the video now. Let's take a look at the bell work. FedEx charges a $15 flat fee plus $2 per additional kilogram. If X is our number of kilograms, then I would write the equation for FedEx as Y equals 15 plus 2X. USPS charges you $5 per kilogram, which is why, again, if X is our number of kilograms, the equation for USPS will be Y equals 5X. Today we are going to learn how to eliminate a variable in order to solve a system of equations. This is important because we are learning another way to solve systems of equations. This is just another tool in your toolbox for you to apply during the appropriate situation. So let's take a look. Faith is working 2 summer jobs, making $13 per hour lifeguarding. That seems important, so I'm going to highlight it. And $12 per hour washing cars. Last week, Faith worked a total of 10 hours. That seems important, I'm going to highlight it. And earned a total of 124. Write a system of equations that could be used to determine 2 things. The number of hours she worked lifeguarding and the number of hours she worked washing cars. Now that we've highlighted what's important, let's define our variables. We'll pick any letters we want. We'll say L is the number of hours spent lifeguarding. And we'll say W is the number of hours she spent car washing. So we need to write our equations. We're going to have 2 equations because I was given 2 totals. I was given a total of 10 hours worked and a total of $124 earned. So that means I'm going to have 2 equations. One equation represents the number of hours worked and one equation is going to represent the total money earned. So for the number of hours worked, we know she worked a total of 10 and she only worked 2 jobs. So we're going to need to add the number of hours worked at each of those jobs together. Now for total money earned, we know that she worked a certain number of hours lifeguarding. We don't know how many hours yet, so we're going to represent that with L. We know she was paid $13 per hour. So I'm going to multiply the number of hours she worked by 13. We also know she worked a certain number of hours washing cars. We don't know how many hours that was, but we know she was paid $12 per hour. So we're going to multiply her number of hours by the amount she was paid, which is 12. And we see that total came out to 124. Now that we've set up our equations, we can solve our equations. And we're going to solve these using a new process called elimination. All elimination means is I want, when I add my equations together, for one of the variables to disappear. In order to do that, I need to multiply one of the equations by any value that'll cancel out one of the variables. So for example, I'm going to multiply this top equation by -12 because I know if this becomes W times negative 12. That's the opposite of positive 12, and it'll cancel out. So I'll show you how this works. I'm multiplying everything by negative 12. So I'm going to end up with a new but equivalent equation that says negative 12L minus 12W equals 120. Underneath that, I'm going to write my original equation. Our last step is we're going to add the equations together. Negative 12L plus 13L just gives me 1L. Negative 12 plus 12 is 0, so that term goes away. It's exactly what we wanted. And negative 120 plus 124 gets me the value of 4. This tells me she spent 4 hours lifeguarding. But I need to get my other answer. If she spent 4 hours lifeguarding and she worked a total of 10 hours, that means she must have spent 6 hours washing cars. And now we're done. That was a lot. Let's see how we feel about it. Take the next 3 minutes to use the word bank to label each piece of the equation with its appropriate label. Again, pause this video for 3 minutes while you label each piece of the equations. We should have labeled L as the number of hours lifeguarding. W should represent the number of hours spent car washing. 10 should represent the total number of hours worked. 13 is her lifeguarding hourly wage. 12 is the car washing hourly wage. And 124 is the total money that she earned. Now we're going to do this one together. Your first step is to highlight what is important. Take 1 minute, pause the video, and highlight what's important. You should have highlighted that Jeremiah can iron 35 shirts per hour. Tristan can iron 20 per hour. They worked a combined 17 hours, and their total number of shirts ironed was 490. Our next step is to define your variables. Pause this video for 1 minute and define your variables. You can use any letters that you want, but we'll keep it easy and we'll use T to represent the number of hours Tristan worked. And we'll use J to represent the number of hours Jeremiah worked. Now that you've highlighted what's important and defined your variables, let's write our equations. Pause this video for 2 minutes while you take your first attempt at writing your 2 equations, one of which should represent the total number of hours and one which should represent their total output, which is number of shirts. You should have written an equation that says number of hours Tristan worked plus the number of hours Jeremiah worked equaled 17. And you should have written another equation that says 20 times the number of hours Tristan works plus 35 shirts times the number of hours Jeremiah works equals 490. Now pause the video for 3 minutes and attempt to solve these two equations. Think about what number you're going to multiply the first equation by in order for a variable to cancel out. When I'm solving this, I'm going to look at t and see that I'm going to multiply it by negative 20. There's another option for what I could have multiplied it by, and we'll discuss that in a second. So I'm going to make sure everything is being multiplied by negative 20. I'm going to write the result down here. Negative 20t minus 20j equals negative 340. Now let's add our equations together. 20 minus 20 equals 0. 35 minus 20 equals 15. 490 minus 340 equals 150. Our last step is to divide, and we see that j equals 10. J is the number of hours worked by Jeremiah. Pause the video for 1 minute and find the number of hours worked by Tristan. If you look at the original first equation written, you would see that if Tristan worked 10 hours and the total number of hours worked was 17, then Tristan would have had to have worked 7 hours. Take a minute and tell me in your own words, why did we multiply the equation by negative 20? Was there anything else we could have multiplied it by? We multiplied the equation by negative 20 to cancel out t. We could have multiplied it by negative 35. Instead, that would have canceled out j. Either one works. It doesn't matter which one you canceled out first, you would end up with the same answer. Now you try. Pause this video for 5 minutes and complete the steps for success. Make sure you highlight what's important, define your variables, write the equations, solve, and then get your other answer. Go ahead and pause the video for 5 minutes. All right, let's go over this problem. We see that in a particular basketball game, he made some free throws, we don't know how many, worth 1 point each, and he made some 2-point shots. He made a total of 9 shots, and he scored a total of 16 points. So now that we've highlighted what's important, we're going to define our variables. We'll use the letter F to mean the number of free throws, and we'll use the letter T to mean the number of 2-point shots. So we need one equation that represents the total number of shots, that equation is represented by his number of free throws plus his number of 2-point shots for a total of 9. We need another equation to represent the number of points. Well, if each free throw is worth a 1, then it'll be 1F, 1 times the number of free throws. And if each 2-point shot is worth 2 points, then it'll be 2 times the number of 2-point shots, for a total number of points of 16. Now that we've written our equations, we're going to solve. I'm going to multiply this top equation by -1. I'm picking that number because we'll see that it will cancel out with the positive 1 in the second equation. Make sure, again, you're multiplying every single thing by -1. I'm going to write the result down here. -1 times F is -1F minus 1T equals -9. Now let's add the two equations together. 1 minus 1 is 0. 2 minus 1 is just 1T. 16 minus 9 is 7. So we see he made 7 2-point shots. To get our other answer, we're going to look back at the first equation and see that if he made 7 2-point shots, then he had to have made 2 free throws. In 2 to 3 sentences, summarize what you've learned using the sentence stem, "Today I learned." Today we learned how to solve a system of equations by temporarily eliminating a variable. If you were able to successfully complete that entire problem, you are Tier 1, and you will start off by writing and solving a system of equations. If you struggled with writing your equations, but were able to solve it once given the equations, you will start off by choosing the right equations for each situation, and then practicing your solving. If you struggled with even defining your variables or understanding what was important, you'll begin by matching real-world problems to their equations before moving on to the Tier 2 and Tier 1 task.